Today, we are going to be covering a very important topic for us in the Southeast is IPM Toolbox approach and treatment types. So we're going to be discussing some cool stuff today. Hope you learned something from this presentation today. And any questions, please feel free to put them on the Q&A box. My name is Francisco Sicilia. I'm the horticulture specialist for Rainbow Ecoscience on the Southeast. I do work with also throughout the States when it's needed. Sometimes I do speak in events in Spanish as well. And I do travel to the United States for those events as well. So if you have any questions in the process, please let us know. I have been working on the green industry for over 25 years. In the landscape maintenance, have been working as a pest control operator for the state of Florida since 2008, and still currently hold my license for Florida. So it has been a great experience, learn a lot in the process, and I hope we can share a little bit of information that can be helpful for your teams as well. A little bit of housekeeping before we start the presentation. Please type your questions into the Q&A box using your control panel. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. This is a live webinar and it's being recorded, and the link of the recording will be sent out 2 days after the webinar. It will be available in our website and as well in our YouTube channel. This webinar is worth 1 ISA CEU for the live broadcast. After the webinar, Rainbow will submit your name and certification number to ISA on your behalf. So we'll take care of that. Thank you for those that are adding your ISA number in the Q&A box. So very important, if you had not submitted that information yet on the registration, please submit it here on the Q&A box. It will be automatically recorded, and our team will be submitting your information to ISA. Thank you very much. A quick safety brief. Please check your surroundings for any trip hazards if you're on an office setting. If you are traveling, please be aware of the weather forecast or any inclement weather in your vicinity, even if you are on an office setting. This is very important. If you are in your vehicle, please be parked on a safe location away from potential traffic that could create any hazard events to you. Well, with that out of the way, so we're going to get started here. So it's very important to understand where plants actually, trees, shrubs, any plants grow naturally on the environment. They grow very happily on the forest where everything is balanced. These trees have been in this forest for many, many years, where competition is very balanced among species. So they have their dedicated space, they have their ability of nutritional value on the soil, they have that soil have developed adequately over the years and built for these particular trees. So what happens, what do we have in our urban settings? In our urban settings, we do have landscapes that we create to beautify our homes, our offices, our parks, our different infrastructures like warehouses, things like that we have. But it is created. So this environment is very fresh, very natural. In many cases, is very low in nutritional value. This also creates stress for plant material. We have to manage it. We have to provide a lot of inputs to be able to keep it thriving in many cases. So it's very important to understand how we can create that balance between the urban environment and the natural environment where these species actually grow very happily. So creating that balance can be tricky. We need to learn a lot about pests, about diseases, to be able to create that balance. Understanding how they interact with our plant species is key, because that way we can put practices and actions in place that will create successful results for us. So let's dive into it. So what are our objectives today? Today, we want to understand the importance of IPM, understanding the various product application methods and tools that we can use in a given time of the year, depending on the species, depending on the environmental conditions and the locations. That will be dictating which tools or methods we are going to use for doing so. We also want to be able to select the correct application method and tool for the pest in the landscape as well. So what do we have for an agenda as well? So we want to define what is IPM, what treatment options you have, application methods and tools and tricks that we can use in the process. So integrated pest management. So I was researching many different sources and was trying to find a simple, easy definition for this. And I went to our University of Florida Ask IFAS website, and they had a pretty neat definition that was provided by the EPA. So, and it says as follows: IPM is the coordinated use of pest and environmental information and available pest control methods to prevent unacceptable levels of damage by the most economical means with the least possible hazard to people, property, and the environment. While there are many extensive definitions of this process, this one caught my attention. It's very simple, very condensed to what actually is important for IPM. So we want to utilize our information that we have from the environment, what is available, learn about it, with coordinated efforts from our teams to be able to identify these pests in a timely manner, whether we use preventive methods or we also are managing to thresholds in the process as well. So we can utilize several methods to be able to achieve this balance. Could be chemical, biological, and physical methods. So chemical method could be the use of insecticides. Biological method could be the use of insect growth regulators, or a physical method could be using a species or a variety of a species that is resistant to a pest that is on your area. What are the objectives of IPM? Mainly, we will always try to use the preventive approach, managing unacceptable levels of pest damage. Okay, so this requires some work ahead of time, understanding when these pests are all going to be in your area, what hosts do they have, and things like that. So we will dive into each of these items in detail further into the presentation. But we also want to minimize the risk to people, property, infrastructure, natural resources, and the environment. We want to be as well very mindful about the environment, make sure we are taking care of not only our people, but also the environment that will take care of our future generations. Reducing also the evolution of pest resistance to pesticides and other management practices. So using rotation of products, trying to use softer products that will prevail on maintaining those species of natural predators in existence without harming them. So the University of Florida do a few recommendations, for example, how we can use IPM to reduce pesticide resistance and development. One of them is sanitation. This will reduce insect and pest and diseases. And what is sanitation? Is removing debris from sites that are not desirable, number one, aesthetically, but also they could attract diseases if not properly managed. Sanitation of tools as well, removing plants that are having diseases. For example, if you have a palm tree that has a ganoderma, it's very important that you remove that tree as soon as possible to isolate the continuous spread of these spores by keeping it in the landscape. So it's very important to understand how to diagnose what Ganoderma is and remove it as soon as possible. Create conscience with property managers, provide proposals on removing these items from the landscape, and very important, don't replace it with another palm. That way you are not continue to further develop the disease in that area. So as well, before you purchase plants, inspect them. Many times I have received plant material that has some levels of pests. They are not managed in the nursery properly, and they will bring that into your landscape. So treat them right away if you encounter these, or make sure that they are inspected prior to delivery to your property so you manage this plant material. Another one is way of how you buy plant material is sometimes you may be buying crepe myrtles, for example. They get bark scale. You could be buying it from a state that actually has an infestation of crepe myrtle bark scale. Make sure you localize your plant material outside those areas if you are not in a location that has crepe myrtle bark scale yet. That way you are not importing that into your counties. Rotation of species, annual flower beds. That way you create a different environment, microclimate every time, and you offset the continuous development of these pests in that area. Follow fertilizer and irrigation recommendations. It's very important that there are times of the year where fertilizer actually with a high level of nitrogen could actually encourage the development of fungus. And this will be the case of doing fertilization on the early fall or on the early spring when the temperatures are still cool around 65 degrees, somewhere in that vicinity. You can encourage the development of Rhizoctonia solani or brown patch in turf. So understanding the impact of fertilizer to disease is very important. So there are many other cases where that it can impact other diseases as well. Identify pest species, life stages, knowing how their life cycle work is key to be able to understand when you need to do the treatment. Using spot treatments of pesticides so that natural enemies can recover on untreated areas, and you can spike those populations to have a natural control in that area. So broadcast treatments may be great on the front end, but in the long term, they could encourage other issues, bigger issues with your pests. They can actually spike due to the lack of natural enemies in those areas. Use reduced risk pest selective and biorational pesticides that are softer on beneficial insects. So that's another approach. Use proper pesticide to protect those species. We spoke a little bit about that earlier. Avoid calendar-based spray programs when possible. While this may be great to create a scope of work for properties or to create a calendar, it could create a situation where you encourage pest resistance in the process. So understanding when to spray based on densities, economic issues or losses of plant material, developing those thresholds, could be aesthetic thresholds, will be key to be able to say, okay, it is time to take action and do a treatment, whether it's preventive or a corrective at the time when you are making that decision. Recognize high risk pest populations where resistance can develop faster. That's key as well. And rotate your insecticide. I believe we all of these, we all know this. So we're gonna go through some details further into the presentation, how we could do that rotation based on the pest that you're dealing with. Why is this so important? Because many times we may be going out there just to spray something, to show for a customer that we did something about their issue, and we really didn't put a huge effort into diagnosing the actual problem on the landscape. We may be dealing with sooty mold, and we are trying to control that sooty mold, but in reality, there is another source for the issue in the city model. Like they may be complaining about ants and you're treating for the ants, but you have a city model and then this is related to a scale and you're not managing the scale, which is the source of the problem. So when this happens, you are actually potentially throwing your money away and effort and also your credibility with that customer, because that will generate further calls with that customer service calls, getting more work in your business, as well as creating more cost. So what are the main steps of an IPM program? What are the aspects that are involved here? So first is setting action thresholds. This will determine when we need to actually get involved in that property to take action with that customer. It might be an education with the customer. This little bit of damage is not significant. This is expected. But when do we actually need to take action? The fact that we see a whitefly flying around a ficus hedge doesn't mean that that ficus hedge is infected. That ficus hedge indeed may be protected, and there might be whiteflies from other hedges that are not treated in the vicinity and they're just around. If that hedge is treated, it's going to be protected against that whitefly. Another step will be doing preventive treatment, followed by monitoring. While monitoring is important, it's important because even though you do create a preventive program and you do manage to a preventive program, you still have to monitor for the development of outbreaks in areas where your program may have not worked as intended, and that way you can take action before it is too late. As well as there might be times that, depending on where you are, you might have to do a second treatment or take a different approach on managing that pest due to environmental conditions where that incur and promote the development of pests during that season or towards the end of those seasons. The diagnosis is key. Being able to properly diagnose a pest, it will help you choose what type of control you need to implement to be able to achieve success in the process. So let's start diving into this. So setting action thresholds, this will help you determine the exact threshold when action is required. What does that mean? It means that it could be that you're finding, let's for example take a ficus hedge that has a whitefly, or a viburnum hedge that has whitefly. If you are looking at under those leaves, beyond just looking at whitefly flying around those hedges, you want to check that you have, if you have larvae, if you have egg sacs that are active and still creating damage on those hedges. That way, and developing sooty mold, that's an action threshold that creates a social impact in that case to be able to control, because we don't want black hedges around our offices or homes. So there will be one threshold there to take action. So it's important to understand the signs and symptoms of pest and disease. So very important, are we dealing with a disease or are dealing with a pest? Is sooty mold what we need to manage, or is an scale or a whitefly that we need to manage? So very important to understand that that is a shift through education to be able to determine proper diagnosis. You could utilize our rainbow webinars and seminars that we implement. And for example, your local state extension agencies, for example, in Florida, we have the UFIFES webinars and seminars that they provide. They do have also, you could go to askifes.com to be able to find answers in a lot of the questions that we have as professionals. So, and this can be used as a second method of verifying the information you're getting from somebody, whether it's us or another professional in the industry. So you can, that way you can make a decision with intent, proper intent to control that pest the right way. Make sure that your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed when you're doing this process. All right, and also identifying host, pest, potential impacts they have on the landscape is key. There can be an economic impact. There can be an aesthetic impact. and there could be a social impact. Back on 2008 in Florida, we had a pest that is called spiraling whitefly. We dealt with it for several years until it sort of got on control. You may still find it here and there nowadays, but very low uh, uh, impact nowadays. Is not as prevalent. But back then, it had a huge aesthetic impact. It will create a lot of honeydew as a result, creating a lot of sooty mold over, hard surfaces, cars, grilling stations in social areas, or in backyards where homeowners had, the grilling stations or their patio where they went to relax. All those chairs will get all dirty, and that created a very unattractive environment for them. So that was a huge driver for that threshold, that it was very little was not tolerable. So that's where we needed to take action. So how could we prevent things like that? We can put programs where we know those outbreaks, when those outbreaks take place, when do they occur, understanding how insects behave or diseases. That way we can use the proper methods to control it. So how can we prevent it? First of all, choosing the right tree or plant in the right place. I mean, I think this will solve over 50% of our problems if we actually get this part right. But we don't always, as landscape professionals, get the opportunity to have an input on a design or on a build based on the current situation, because even designs were done 10, 20 years ago when they work properly. Nowadays, they are not the best choice to move forward. So choosing the right plan in the right place, using the correct tools for the desired outcome. That we will dive into types of treatments later on. As far as maintenance, proper pruning, proper fertilization, mulching, not excessive mulching, but doing enough of it the proper way can go a long way. Retaining water, it also will help manage compaction. If you're having turf, managing compaction is key. Doing those aerations when it's needed. It's important to be able to keep a turf that is thriving. For those of you that work in golf courses, is something, a practice that you do all the time, every year, as needed based on the calendar. Government will put things in place to like quarantine zones. They recommend not moving firewood because this will help move pathogens and insects across the states and into areas that we don't have these pests. So it's very important that we keep that in mind. Buy your firewood where you are going to be having your event. For example, I go to Tennessee off-roading once or twice a year, and over there I can go buy firewood locally if I need it for the campsite. So use practices like that to be able to mitigate the possibility of moving pests around the different states. Monitoring your landscape is critical. Even though we have prevention programs, we need to continue to monitor for development of diseases or pests in this equation. So I'd rather spend more time monitoring a property than having a technician just spraying in and out all day long. You will spend so much more time, so much resources just doing the other compared to doing the monitoring. You will be using less resources. Yes, you will invest on a higher value person that can do this monitoring and for your properties. But it will pay off in the long run to where you actually have a higher quality landscape, and you're protecting the environment in the process. So this will involve education. So if you don't have somebody fully educated, send them for education, teach them the different aspects, involve your team, your crews in this process. They are the main source of communication that can help you at least not properly diagnose, I would say, but identify symptoms that are going on in the landscape. They can identify if a plant is thriving or not. They know these plants. the in and out, but they can say, hey, something is wrong here. Could somebody come by and take a look at it? It's defoliating, it's brown, it doesn't look right. That is just enough to be able to trigger a service call to your pest control inspection team to be able to manage those problems. So, but that takes education, knowing what you're looking for. That person just needs to be educated, teach them, send them for seminars. There's plenty of webinars that the green industry provides, like ours. Actively look for signs and symptoms. Sometimes there might be not a clear understanding of what is going on. I have come across that I have spent 45 minutes diagnosing a problem in one area because it's something I didn't recognize right off the bat, but you have to take the time to properly diagnose the source. Talk to other people that is in the industry. We are a huge resource among each other, help each other in the process. Then implement and schedule broad sampling methods. You can once a month, whatever that cadence is needed for managing your properties. It's important that you have a calendar. You can do it by seasons. You know that you're going to be getting infestations of bagworms at a certain time of the year. You know, start monitoring those activities so that way you can choose when that threshold is to go and do the application for that in a timely manner. So bagworms, if you treat them too early, with, for example, Lepitec, you could go too early and miss the window. That's a 30 to 45 day treatment. So very important that you use your monitoring to be able to actually do your control and do it property by property. Understand what species are on these properties, what are susceptible. Keep a record of this. That way, year over year, you can have guidance, a program that you can go by. Hey, I have conifers on this property and I don't have conifers on this other property. So I'm going to have bagworm issues in here and not here. Spend your time wisely where you're going to be dealing with that pest. So communication, just your crews are boots on the ground. They're the best source of information. Get them involved. Teach them how to find problems, and not necessarily a full diagnosis, but teaching them key items and getting them involved in the process. So diagnosis. The correct diagnosis will go a long way on solving the problems. That means success. If we don't properly diagnose, we may be using the wrong method of treatment, the wrong chemistry, and the wrong approach, and we are not going to get control of that pest or disease as intended. So it's very important that to spend the proper time on diagnosis the problem. That could involve involving a team to diagnose it, reach out to others, send pictures, use diagnosis guides. So tremendously important to be able to achieve control. So in the diagnosis, here, for example, I have two examples. One is about an insect. The insect present on this case is the sign. So the actual insect, it could be scale, crepe myrtle, and crepe myrtle trees. You may see these actively, those red nymphs already crawling. So right about this time of the year, they're going to start to emerge. I saw a little bit of activity already happening on the southeast, but the outbreak is about to start happening soon. So if you haven't put management tools back on the fall to proactively prevent these treatments, you need to choose a chemical that will drive you success on that. The symptoms, they are caused by the insects. So could be defoliation, could be lack of flowering, and crepe myrtles, the bar scale wasm, the main symptoms that you see is sooty mold, honeydew, lack of foliage. From far away, you will see trees that are really dark from the previous season. So those are prompt to have development of the pest this year. So start there and get close to the tree. Look for the sign. Look for that insect. Make sure it is active. If it is active, just need to put things in place to get control on it. If you don't have activity, you really already had a method of control in the fall, just monitor that it is working. to make sure that you don't have new activity. In the case of diseases, you're looking for necrosis, visible rust in the back of the leaves, for example. You could see dieback through the canopy, poor trees, they are not thriving. You can find spots or lesions on the trunk or on the leaves. So these are all signs that you could use to determine if you're having a disease. Of course, getting on the underside of that leaf, you will find the rust. That will be your sign in this case. So for proper diagnosis, we do have a resource available to you. I'm gonna take a second here to, that way you can scan this QR code. This will get you to a few tools that we have available to help you diagnose problems on the landscapes. There are several items there. So that's our internal Rainbow Ecoscience diagnosis. So, and if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to our 1-800 number, which is 877-272-6747. And we will be able to guide you in the right direction as best as possible. We will help you get to a solution. Sometimes we don't have a solution, but we may guide you in the right direction. I will have this QR code at the end of the presentation if you don't get a chance to scan it now. All right, so I have a few examples here that I think are important. Sometimes we are called to look at a tree for a customer, and you could be dealing with dieback, you could be dealing with defoliation, leaves dying, or you could find sooty mold on hollies. You will see you still start finding sooty mold. They get scale. So if you see that, don't try to look to manage the sooty mold and clean that out. Only look for managing the source of that sooty mold. The sooty mold, to me, is a symptom of having a scale, which will be your sign that because they create the honeydew where the sooty mold grows on. And so to be able to manage that sooty mold, you need to manage the actual pest. Once you control the pest, you will control the further development of sooty mold in those plants. Dieback could be the result of different issues on trees. It could be that that's just a symptom that they are having. They could be, you could have had construction done 3 years ago in that area that developed the stress on those trees, further creating dieback on those trees. So you got to look at the overall picture, what's around it, to be able to determine what do you need to do. For example, when you're dealing with boring insects, which here in the middle we find a boring insect, which is our sign here, but they create galleries in the process. You may find a tree that the bark got peeled, and you will see these galleries. So this is just a symptom of the problem of those borders. And here you see the frass. Those are just signs, or symptoms of what's going on, and finding who is the culprit. In this case, these borders, how to manage them is key. So now that we have that, we have gone through prevention, monitoring, all of this. We want to create control. So how do we manage these different insects or pests in the landscape? So to be able to get control, you want to understand the solution that you are dealing with. Are you dealing with a foliar spray? How long does that foliar spray provide control for? So keep in mind, foliar sprays typically does not last very long, as they are very low rates. They are typically not systemic, and they are very targeted for a very small window. And that approach has a purpose in many and fits many models. But in our landscapes, we want to get as long as possible, the control to be as long as possible. So we need to understand as well, are we dealing with a cold or with a flu medicine versus an allergy medicine. So what are we trying to achieve by using our chemistries that we have? Is it a leaf-chewing insect? Is it a boring insect? Is it a disease? Or is it a biotic issue? Many times, what we are dealing with, it has nothing to do with disease or insects. It could be related to the environment. It could be related to lack or too much irrigation in the process. It could be related to an injury to a tree. It could be related to pruning practices that took place. So those are things that we need to take into consideration to be able to choose the proper method. Once we get there, we still need to get back to monitoring and start all over again. So let's jump into the different methods that we have. We have foliar sprays, we have soil injection, tree injection methods, we have soil drenches available as well, bark sprays. So these are different methods that you could utilize. And how do you choose them? It depends on what training is available and what equipment you have available with your team. Where are you at with your team when it comes to this? What's the cost of these different methods? Are they easy to apply? Do we understand how that pest works? Understanding which is the best route to choose that. For example, are you dealing with a soft scale or a armor scale? So soft scales, you can manage pretty much with either Cytec, which is imidacloprid, or dinotefuran, which is with Transtec in our products. But so if you have armor scales, Transtec, which is dinotefuran, is one of the most effective methods to be able to manage them. So there's a few methods that you can use to manage a cremator bark scale, and ideally you would like to use either Transtec or an insect growth regulator like Proxite. So what is the public perception? So do you want to use bark spray to be able to mitigate exposure to your public? Or are you in the middle of a field where you can use an insect growth regulator where you can actually spray the canopy of that tree to achieve control and use a softer product protecting bees as well? The proximity to water. So this will also drive what method do you want to use. Sometimes you are too close to the water and you need to use a tree injection method to manage a pest on a palm tree, for example. That's something typical here in Florida. The application site. So what type of site it is? Are we dealing with restaurant landscape bed, or are we dealing with a warehouse setting in the middle of the field? Weather plays a huge role in the method of application we're using as well. So that will drive, there are methods that you really have to have dry weather to be able to actually do a foliar spray, for example. Compared to a tree injection, you pretty much can do it on any type of weather because you are not exposed to the elements at the time of the application. Let's start with foliar spray. Foliar sprays is probably one of the easiest methods to do. Is the most common one. You can use basically just a backpack sprayer, whether it's electric or a manual pump, motorized backpack sprayers, all the way to power sprayers, whether they're electric or gas power, with settings like this, JT9 guns, or a few different tools that are available for that. So they will dictate, mostly these tools will dictate how fast you're going to be doing the treatment, how much product you can actually mix at a time, what budget do you have at the time of your starting the business or this type of revenue. So this is a very easy method to use. It's very important to know how to use it. And what chemistries can you use here? You can use insecticides, you can use fungicides, plant growth regulators. You could also provide nutrition to the landscape and trees when you are doing foliar sprays. Now, they are a little bit of time consuming because you have to spray the whole canopy of those trees or those shrubs that you're trying to manage. There's spray drift and weather that you have to take into consideration. So if you are close to structures or areas that have a lot of traffic, that might be a little bit difficult to manage because you don't have the space to do it, and the perception of the public might not be that great. Also, in the application and test timing is key. there are pests. We are trying to target these pests right when it's ideal for that chemistry to work on those pests at the time of the application. So you have to know your pests. You have to know how the chemical interacts with the pests that you are dealing with to be able to get the most control possible for these insects or diseases. Throwing injection is the next method available to directly put that chemistry into the tree. It's very fast. It's a direct method that you can implement. There's a couple tools that we have available. We have a Q-Connect system, which is an air pressurized system. You can pressurize it with a bike pump or a small battery operated compressor. Very versatile and it's very convenient. You can treat one tree up to 10 injection size at a time, and as well as it comes, you can expand the system to more by getting more teas available based on the trees that you are dealing with on the landscape. It's very efficient. It's more economic than the Quantum. The Quantum, while it's a little more expensive, is our newest 3-injection tool. We have done a few improvements over the last couple of years. It's one of my favorite tools to use for 3-injection. And it is battery operated, very versatile, lasts a long time, and you can move quickly through a tree better than you could with the Quantum. In many cases. So how do you drill? How do you inject? You just drill with a 1564 drill bit and install, as we see here, Q-Connect system with a bike pump being pressurized, and you treat that tree, so protecting those trees. And you do the injection sites right at the base by the root flare as low as possible to where the tissue is the most active and will heal over. So it is a plugless system, and you don't have to install any plugs, saving you time, energy, protecting the trees from healing over foreign structures that require also additional installation timing and materials in the process. What's the advantage of this type in injections is that they are systemic. They move into the canopy of the tree fairly quick and taking action right away within days in those in getting control on those insects or diseases. So there is also, they control insects. You can use insecticides, you can use fungicides and antibiotics. There's micro, macro injection, strong injection system, depending on the product that you're using, as well as nutrition. You could use treat for chlorosis as well, and in many cases where you do have chlorosis. So these products are systemic, can be applied in most weather and close to water. They take time and specialized equipment and training. So, but as long as you're doing your education, once you are up there, we can help you get there very quickly. We have territory managers throughout the United States, and we have a team of arborologists and horticulture specialists available to you to provide that training as extended help. And always we are a phone call away. It takes minimal exposure to the applicator and the environment. So this many times is a go-to solution as a result. So this is an example as well for our next method of soil drench and an injection. Depending on the volume of trees you're doing or the equipment that you have available, you will choose either or method to do. I like to mainly use my soil injection tool when I'm doing many trees. If I'm doing a few trees, I will go to individual treatments of trees, doing a soil drench like you see here on the picture. The advantage of this is they are systemic. You can use insecticides, fungicides, nutrition, and plant growth regulators to a different type of chemicals here. So they have a wide variety of solutions through this methodology. The systemic can be applied on most weather. They have fast application and minimal training and minimal equipment needs. The next method is basal bark sprays. Basal bark sprays are really efficient. you can treat 10 trees in a matter of minutes with a very low amount of solution. For example, you can treat about 10 crepe myrtle trees with 1 gallon of solution of Transtec to achieve control at this time of the year, protecting your trees for the season. You may need to do a follow-up in the fall with imidacloprid to continue the protection for the following season and achieve extended control in those areas that are needed. Now, you will do that based on your monitoring process as well. So here we see the activity is systemic. You will be treating all around that trunk from the root flare all the way to the 4.5 feet. It's not needed to spray the trunk all the way up into these trees, just the first 4.5 feet at the DBH height. And you will go around all the tree doing that spraying to wet and creating that. So you could use bark penetrants to help the molecule achieve success. With Transtec is not always needed, but you could always use it to ensure and enhance the ability of the chemical to get inside that tree and quickly. So these products are systemic. They are weather dependent because we want that product to dry on that surface of the bark of that tree, allowing time to be able to be absorbed. It's a fast acting, it's a fast application. Some training for dosing is needed, but requires very, very minimal equipment. You can start with a backpack sprayer or even a hand pump sprayer of 1 gallon to be able to do this treatment. Backpack sprayer, hand pump sprayer, shaping with a pressure gauge would be great. You want to treat it with a low pressure at the time. So we have covered here a lot of things. Setting action thresholds. That's what is going to guide when to take action in the process. Using a preventive method, monitoring, diagnosing is key. That's what is going to keep the quality of your pest control program at best, and by choosing the proper control method when it's needed. Keep in mind that even though we do a control on the landscape, we definitely need to make sure we keep monitoring throughout the year. It might be not always for the same pest, but monitoring for those pests that are going to be emerging in the season that they are the most active. So it's key. Using growing degree days is a good guide for you to be able to determine when you do need to be actively looking for this pest to be able to send your teams for controlling this pest. So a few examples of pests that we will find in the landscape, for example, is T-scale. It's a scale that affects, you can find them on camellias. It's very important that we know what they are in the process. For example, they are an armor scale. So you would like to use Transtec in this case as one of the methods of treatment. And it's their name is Fiorinia TA. Please don't quote me on the pronunciation. It's T-scale, it's the Latin version of it. But how you could help your teams help you understand when there is something going on the landscape. So you do have, every morning you do have some daily briefings or tailgate topics that you discuss. You could introduce seasonal pest topics that are relevant to your area, and just show them pictures, what they are looking for, what symptoms they may be aware of at this time of the year, to communicate that back to you as they are inspecting the properties or doing their mowings or maintenance on the property. So just showing them what that T-scale looks like, what insect, what it is, show them a little bit of information. They will love to learn as well. You will be surprised how much this will drive your teams to be motivated. Show them what type of host they will be on, and a little bit of information, what symptoms, what is the impact of this pest on the landscape. This is what they are going to be looking at. They're looking, if you see leaves that are yellow or browning, that's the little detail that they are can recognize. They are not going to be able to say, okay, this is this X and Y Z Latin name pest, but they can tell you, okay, I have brown leaves or yellow leaves on my camellias. Could you check what it is? Maybe there's a lot of white stuff underneath the leaf. So they're going to be able to tell you that, and you can use that as a tool to be able to proceed with control methods as needed, inspections and control methods. So very important, create that education in your team. Prevention, don't plant susceptible hosts near infestations, follow plant quarantine rules, encourage tree vigor, promoting tree health all the time. Monitoring, look for scale infestations or other insects or diseases. Look for damaged tissue, whether it's from insects or disease. You could have marginal leaf margins showing necrosis or phytotoxicity. Just keep an eye on those things. Monitor for leaf canopy dieback. Those are great signs that you can be looking for, among other things. The diagnosis, have someone help you, whether it's an organization or outside the organization, properly diagnose and identify what problem you have on the landscape. That way you can achieve and choose the proper treatment method that you're looking for. You can contact us anytime. Use a cross-reference method. Whether you're on Texas, use Texas A&M. If you are in the Carolinas, use the Carolina regional extension agencies, or Florida, you can use UF IFES. They're a great resource, very helpful. They want to help all of them. So now you choose your treatment method, know what your solutions are. At Rainbow, we do have treatment guides for you available based on the pest that you're dealing with. So just reach out to us. If you're our customer or not, we can guide you in the process and be able to help you. So if you want to learn more, give us a call, and we can help. So keep in mind, once you do control, always continue to monitor. This step never ends. If you are able to create records of what you're doing, try to always be in the front end, doing using preventive methods to actually avoid the development of the diseases. So you don't have to do this as much and be efficient on the process. You will keep a high quality landscape. Customers very happy. Here we have an scale insect management guide that is available to you at any time. So please take a second to scan it. I'm going to have it at the end of the presentation as well. So I'm going to leave it here for a few more seconds. Then I'm going to be moving on into a couple things I have, and we're almost at the end of the presentation. This is an example of Licanium scale, for example. This is things that you could share with your teams based on to find those pest diseases that you deal with typically, and use simple images, a little bit of information that is beneficial to your teams so they can diagnose it. It could be the insect, could be a symptom, but educate them on the process. So you could use like, the brown patch ring on the turf. That's very easy one. So that's something that they can easily manage. So just teach them how to communicate. This in this case is soft scale, so you have more options for treatment there. But compare Kramer bar scale is another example, but this is a felt scale. Now it is managed like an armor scale, but they look like millibugs to a degree. But you can find them in Kramer's mostly, but they are also can be found on Beautyberry and a few other hosts. But teach them what they look like. A little bit of education goes a long way. Bagworms, they're going to be hatching now in the spring. They're mostly on conifers, arborvitae, cedar, junipers, and pine. They're developed into a mud, but the window of treatment is very important to know when they are starting to hatch, and so monitoring is key here. So you can do a treatment. For example, you can use Lepitec to treat it. It's a soil apply method, and it will last for 30 to 45 days. So going there at the right time is key. That way you can actually get control on them. So IPM is important for our landscape and our industry to be able to establish good prevention programs, good monitoring practices, and intervention at the right time. That is key. Understanding signs, who are the culprits of these issues, and what are the symptoms that we can find as a identification tool in the landscape, so our teams can help you monitor this in a timely manner when they are developing and maximizing our efforts in the process. So continue to monitor after treatment to make sure not only you are getting control, but you are not getting any further outbreaks of this pest. Thank you very much for attending today. We are at time here, so I have time for a few questions. So I'm gonna look here. Thank you for submitting all the information for your ISA registration. Okay, so the definition for EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. That's the regulatory agency that helps us register products to be able to use in the landscape or many other settings, not only in the landscape, but they are responsible for that. So it's Environmental Protection Agency. Great, thank you for asking. Another question, do you advocate PAC and site management? Guy, so plant health care is very important, and IPM is a tool utilized within plant health care along with site management. So we do manage sites as far as we do all the mowing, the pruning. So using the best management practices in the process is key to be able to further enhance the vigor of the plant material. That could be fertilization, proper methods of control when pests arise. Making sure we are managing those pests is key. That way that plant material can continue to thrive. Otherwise, it will continue to decline over years, losing that investment. So there are pests that here, for example, I'm in Florida, and that's what I relate to. Ficus hedges back in the early 2000s were hammered tremendously with ficus whitefly. So that created a huge impact on many properties where treatments were very costly on managing that site. But eventually those costs went down. So part of the PHC for that was removing that host plant. Many properties took that approach. Actually, instead of managing the pest, they replace that plant material with something else that is not a host for that particular pest. So it doesn't always relate to managing that pest days in and years out. It's actually could take replacement with something different. And is there a way to keep European hornets from chewing the bark? So I unfortunately know I'm not familiar with European hornets, but I do see someone didn't put their name here on this question, but I will try to get that answer back to you and in the future. So, but if you have no further questions, thank you for attending today. It was great spending time to you, and have a wonderful day.